Would you vote for Jon Stewart if he ran for president? If so, why? If not, why? No, he's not quite old enough. I only vote for people so old that they're dead inside and old enough where they won't have to live with the consequences of their decisions. Yes, mainly because he doesn't want to be president. I really hate that this throwaway pointless comment is my most upvoted of all time. Reddit. Stop making celebrities president. Also Reddit. Relieved face. No, Jon Stewart does more good on the outside raising important questions than he would on the inside being awash with the institutional chaos. Let him continue to do his good work. Give him Moretto due, bigger audiences, bigger platform. Let the politicians understand that they won't goon checked with their bullshit. Give young journalists a reason to believe that asking the right questions is the way forward. We don't need to always elect the good guys. But we definitely need to stop electing the bad guys. Let the man help animals on his sanctuary in peace. This is the premise of Man of the Year, 2006, starring Robin Williams. I have not seen everything Jon Stewart has done, but I know that in particular when he discussed a field I was knowledgeable in he missed the mark fairly significantly. With that said, I would not be afraid to vote for him because I believe he does have integrity and a drive to make the world better. Hopefully he can surround himself with a knowledgeable cabinet to help him, and I would assume he would leave office with the US being on a better path than when he came in. What's a sign of childhood trauma? In some cases, excessive people-pleasing tendencies. Difficulties trusting, low self-esteem, fears of being judged. Trouble forming relationships. Getting disproportionately frustrated at themselves for small accidents such as spilling things, accidentally breaking something, etc. What happens is, a lot of these people would be best as a kid for these things, so as an adult when it happens, their brain overloads their system with fear and anxiety, and frustration can be secondary emotion to that. So when these things happens, this is basically a conditioned response because your brain associates these accidents with imminent danger. This is why therapy is so important for people who had hit childhoods, especially during their developing years. I had no idea this was a thing until I went to therapy, but when my therapist explained this to me, it made so much sense. And now when these things happen, I tend to laugh it off. I am always scared that people are mad at me, always. Constantly apologizing for every little thing, extreme introversion. Little to no outward emotion. Ability to stay calm in emergencies or chaotic situations. Hypervigilance. Oversharing when you haven't known the person long, or the opposite where you don't open up to anybody. Two extremes. Hyper-independence. Can't be let down if you never ask for anything in the first place. Extreme self-cringe, doubting if what you said was the right thing. Doubting if you acted the right way, or behaved the right way in a social setting. Asking someone several times if you did something correctly. Zoning out because you randomly remembered a traumatic childhood memory, low self-esteem, lack of confidence. Completely shutting down when criticized or corrected. Took me years to get past this. Choosing partners who don't support, cherish or value you. Choosing jobs and relationships that reflect the lack of empathy and neglect that you grew up with. Peacekeeping. A kid doesn't realize their parent, mom in my case, is an emotionally abusive hole. All I knew is I didn't want people to be so mad at each other. I think my life would have been better if I hadn't talked them out of divorce. Having a hard time showing emotion. Childish activities become almost like treats. Edit since this is getting big. People can just enjoy watching things from their childhood or playing games or whatever independently from trauma, but it is incredibly common for the people with trauma to basically want to relive their childhood that they lost when they are in a safer environment. Unable to forgive themselves for small mistakes. Perfectionism. Addictions. Compromised relationship to intimacy, their bodies, eating, money. If your best friend puts a gun to your head, what are your last words? What are you gonna do? Shoot me before getting shot. Bruh. I always knew it would end this way. Taking your load to the face. Now he can't shoot me or it's gay. This actually happened to me. We were kids, 15 or 16, out plinking. On the walk back, my friend pointed his 16-gauge shotgun at my head, as a joke. My reaction was to get really pissed off, then angrily grab the shotgun by the barrel and shove it away, while swearing at him prolifically. He then said, "Hey, don't freak out, it's not loaded. See?" and pointed the gun at the sky and pulled the trigger to prove it. It was loaded. And in case you're thinking he knew that all along, he immediately turned bright, bright red, and didn't speak a single word for the rest of the 2-mile hike back. Longest he was ever silent, before or since. Tell your mom I put her in my wool. While he's confused, I attempt to disarm him. This isn't murder. It's homicide, pensive face. I guess you figured it out, huh? You still have the safety on. Last night, I put a bigger gun inside your Mewbang. Go ahead, make my day. Reddit. What is the most eerie thing that's ever happened to you? Sleep paralysis. I've had 2 episodes in my life, but the first one will stick with me forever. My bed was in a corner of my room. My closet was in the opposite corner. No door on the closet, and it was stacked with a ton of junk, community storage for the household as I never used it. I wake up lying on my back, with the door in line of sight. I can see that it's full. But I can also see a hand slide out and grip the door frame. Paleo feminine. Followed by the slowly emerging frame of a very tall woman clad in a white, Victorian-era dress. She was almost pretty, aside from something in her face that wasn't quite right. I couldn't tell you what it was, but I remember being uneasy about it. For a while, probably about 15 minutes, she just stood there, talking to herself. I wasn't able to make out anything she said, but that's when the panic set in. I realized I couldn't move or speak, couldn't look away, and had no idea what was happening, as I felt fully awake. Then she stopped, looked me in the eye and smiled, and the corners of her mouth pulled back to her ears. Terrifying. She started to approach, and slowly opened her mouth so wide, her chin waist-touching where I'd estimate the bottom of her ribcage sat. It wasn't long before I could smell her rotten breath, and she began to crawl on top of me. The entire time, she was letting out this awful, multi-toned moan that sounded like 5 voices at once, all distorted. I could feel her weight resting on my chest. I couldn't breathe or scream as she inched closer. She put my entire head in her mouth, and I fully woke up when all I could see was darkness. I still get a bit panicky remembering that one. It felt so real. One time my husband and I were lying in bed and the bottom drawer to his nightstand slammed shut. There was no logical explanation for why that happened, and we still don't understand to this day. I was driving home per usual and got this random, unwavering feeling that my house had been broken into. I kind of laughed and said, "Please don't let my house have actually been broken into." Out loud as I turned the corner onto my street. The first thing I noticed when I pulled up to the house were the blinds on my bedroom window. They were yanked around and twisted up. Some guy that lives across the street turned out to have been stalking me and decided to climb through my bedroom window. He took nothing valuable. Just some weird personal items. It was terrifying to walk in and see my things rummaged through. It was even scarier when I talked to the neighbor and they admitted that multiple people in the neighborhood had seen it happen, but they were all too scared of old dude to say anything. The weirdest part of it all, and I mean this guy took some creepy personal things, is that nagging feeling I had before I found the remnants of the break-in. I swear I knew before I knew, and that was such an eerie feeling. I had one of those dreams that you couldn't wake up from. I knew I was asleep and I was aware, but I couldn't wake up. I was absolutely terrified, thinking that I was stuck in like a coma or something. I had a gun with me for some reason, and as the terror of not being able to wake up grew, for some reason had a thought and belief that if I killed myself in the dream I would die in real life, and that was a better alternative than being in a coma. So I brought the gun to my head and pulled the trigger. I physically felt pain in my temple and heard the shot. I woke up right afterwards. This happened last year. I was having a recurring dream where I was in the woods at night. I noticed a campfire in the distance. Whoever was sitting at the fire notices me and yells out, "Hey! What are you doing out here?" and starts moving towards me until I wake up. Late last summer I decided to go out to the woods for a hike. Once I got out there, I needed to pee. I hopped off of the trail to get closer to the creek so I could take care of business and not worry about anyone walking up on me. As I approached the creek, I see a hidden shelter and a man setting up a campfire. When he noticed me, he said, "Hey! What are you doing out there?" Nothing else happened. I apologized and went in my way. It was the only time in my life that I had dreams of an event before it happened. I was pretty shook at the time. I once met the same set of twins in the same day, one after the other. One at a library and then another at the mall. What currently legal act do you expect to become illegal within 20 years? People using their children to become influencers. Many individuals are recognizing multi-level marketing for what it is. Hopefully child marriage. Microtransactions should not be present in a game that can be offered to children. I hope that it is companies gathering and selling your personal data without explicit permission. I hope and believe that there will be some laws put in place for certain deepfakes. They are looking so convincing these days and will only get more realistic, and some of the things that are made can be life-ruining, so some of it should really be illegal, even with the innocent ones that we know are fake. How annoying must it be for celebrities that have worked hard and maybe been selective with the roles they take? And some random dude or chick using their likeness and earning lots of money doing lame skits using their face. I don't know if it will become illegal, but it is me fondest wish that gerrymandering will become a thing of our primitive past. My hope is that it will eventually become illegal for politicians to accept outside donations or gifts of any kind. If you want to run for office, there's a specific fund every candidate gets to draw from to fund it. Everyone gets the same amount, and if the money runs out, they have to jump through bureaucratic hoops to prove they deserve more, or that the money wasn't misspent. Once elections are over, win or lose, whatever money is left over is returned to the fund for the next cycle. That's a very broad idea, anyway. No more bribes masked as campaign donations, no more corporate lobbyists buying American legislation piece by piece. That's what I'd like.